Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Danny Taylor, and today we are going to be talking about meal prep. So meal prep is not like a fun food trend that's happening right now. Meal prep is something that if you do it well and do it consistently, it can save you money, it can help you eat healthier, it makes sure you cover all of your nutritional bases. It can be a really, really wonderful thing. But that said, it can feel really overwhelming for people to have this idea that, okay, one day I have to cook my food for the whole week. And a lot of people have asked me for tips on how to meal prep. So today, that is what I'm going to be talking about. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Danny Taylor. I am the co-owner of VeganProteins online coaching. We coach vegan and plant-based people to better their health. So if you're interested in that, feel free to check that out. We have tons of resources at VeganProteins.com. Okay, so when I thought about making this video, I thought about walking you through my own meal prep. And as much as that might be kind of a fun video to watch, I don't know how helpful that would actually be to other people, because what I eat is going to be very different than what you eat, because there is no one way to meal prep. And that is a really important thing to remember. Your meal prep doesn't have to look like somebody else's. And I often find that in order to make a fun and entertaining YouTube video, most content creators end up doing like full days of eating or meal prep that is not really practical in terms of what they do on a regular basis. So Jock and I were joking, maybe we will do like a what I really eat in a day video or what I really meal prep on the weekends video. So if you guys are interested in seeing that in the future, let me know and I can film my real meal prep for the week, which probably is not super Instagram worthy, but it doesn't have to be. The most important thing about meal prepping, I cannot stress this enough, it is the planning of the meal prepping. If you just wake up one day and you're like,
you know what, I'm gonna meal prep for the whole week, I'm not gonna plan anything for it,
it's gonna be a disaster. You're probably not going to like the recipes that you make very much. You might not even end up eating them. You're probably not gonna have the right ingredients. You're gonna be like,
this isn't for me, I'm not doing this anymore.
So the planning phase is really, really important. And if you don't do this step, everything else is going to be harder. So make sure that you take 30 minutes sometime throughout the week to plan it out. So the most important thing, and this goes back to what I was just saying about YouTube videos, keep it simple. Your meal prep does not have to be super fancy or Instagrammable, especially if you're new to meal prep. Keep it as simple as possible so that you can feel successful with it and build on those skills over time. So that is the most important thing. Keep it simple. The second most important thing is you have to keep it enjoyable. Make sure that the foods that you're planning on making for the week are foods that you actually like and are looking forward to eating. If you are prepping and planning foods that you don't like, why would you eat them? So this is, at VeganProteins, this is one of our mottos. The perfect plan on paper does not matter if you can't actually do it. The perfect workout on paper doesn't matter. The perfect meal plan on paper doesn't matter. The perfect meal prep doesn't matter if you're not actually gonna eat it. So make sure you're excited about the foods that you are going to prep for the week. So you're excited about breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I would recommend, especially if you're new to this, eat the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day for the week. So some people prep for 5 days, some people prep for a full 7 days. I do 5 days and then kind of hodgepodge things together a bit on the weekends, but that took a lot of years of practice to be able to do that successfully. So if you want to start with 7 days to make your life just a little bit smoother, feel free to go ahead and do that. But regardless, I would plan on eating the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks every day for a week. Not because this is nutritionally superior or anything like that, but because it's going to be much easier for you to plan and prep for and execute. Then you'll feel much more successful. And eventually, maybe you can put in a couple of lunches or a couple of dinners that you rotate throughout the week. But in the beginning, simpler is always gonna be better. When you're picking out what to eat, I would recommend plugging it into a food tracker or writing it down. If you're watching this channel, you're probably interested in health and fitness. So this is really important when you're interested on reaching specific athletic goals or physique goals. You wanna make sure that you're hitting your macros and covering your nutritional basis for you. So however you choose to do that is totally up to you. Some people like pen and paper, some people use spreadsheets, some people use MyFitnessPal. Our Academy members use our tools on VeganProteins.com. We also have a meal planner where you can pick out the meals you're gonna eat and it automatically generates a shopping list for you. So the Academy members specifically have access to tools that make these steps easier. You don't need to be an Academy member to do that. You can pick out your meals, plug them in, make sure you cover your nutritional bases in any way that you choose. But if you do want access to those tools, VeganProteins.com. So pick out a breakfast, pick out a lunch, pick out a dinner, and pick out 1 to 2 snacks. Again, this is going to be very dependent on your needs, but make sure that you're not leaving out any meals that you normally have. So if you normally have a couple snacks, make sure you plan for those as well. The next thing would be to make sure that you pick a day that you're going to do this. Put it in your calendar, make it repeat every week so that you do it every week on the same day. So I like to do mine on Sunday. Giacomo and my mother, they go grocery shopping in the morning on Sunday, so I give them the list of the stuff that I need, and then I'm going to then make it later on in the day. I'm lucky to have Giacomo understand exactly what it is that I'm looking for, but a lot of people are going to be doing their own shopping also. So after you have your meals, make sure you calculate out how much of each ingredient you're going to need for 7 breakfasts, 7 lunches, 7 dinners, and 7 snacks. You do not want to have to run back to the grocery store to get something because you miscalculated how many capers you needed for a certain dressing or something like that. So make sure that you calculate it out and plan to be making enough food all at once. So again, this is the planning stage, very important. Make your shopping list, make sure it has the right amounts on it. Now you're gonna go to the store. So when you go to the store, don't be afraid to use convenience foods if that's in your budget. If that works in your budget, getting pre-chopped fruits and vegetables can be really helpful for some people who have very busy schedules. Things like frozen vegetables, that's something that I use pretty frequently actually, is frozen veggies. But other convenience foods might be bottled sauces or dressings, as long as they work within your particular goals. That works absolutely fine. You do not have to make everything from scratch in order to be successful at meal prep at all. I use protein bars sometimes as some of my snacks. I'm doing that right now for one of my snacks. Things like cauliflower rice, if you're using cauliflower rice, you know, getting a frozen bag of that can be really helpful. So, you know, I'm not saying you need to use all convenience foods. You don't. You can make anything you want from scratch. But again, in the beginning, you want to keep it simple and easy on yourself. So if it works within your budget and it's something that you want to do, go for it. If you're able to buy in bulk, buying in bulk can be really helpful because it stops you from having lots of leftovers. You don't want to have a lot of leftovers of some random ingredient that you might not use again for a long time. So if you have access to bulk shopping, it can save you some waste, save you some money. We don't have access to that here, but I know a lot of people do. And then another thing kind of along those same lines that I should have mentioned before was shop your cabinets first. Always before you go grocery shopping, check your cabinets. What do you have? Let's say you need 2 15-ounce cans of tomatoes for something that you're planning on making, and you might actually already have that, but if you don't check your stash first, you could end up going and buying 2 more than you need. I have been guilty of this so many times, coming home with food and being like, oh, if I had just looked there, I would have realized we already had this and now I have extra. So always check what you have, try to use up what you have first whenever possible. And also, make sure that you have enough containers. So this is where we get into the like,
oh, is this Instagrammable enough?
Who cares? Whatever containers you need to use to, you know, portion out your meals once they're done, go for it. So we have a combination of like plastic, Tupperware type containers. We have some glass containers. Sometimes we use foil or waxed paper. Sometimes we use the little plastic ramekins like you would get to go at a restaurant. Sometimes we save those if we get them from a restaurant takeout. We'll save them to use later. You can use empty pasta sauce jars. You can use empty peanut butter jars for things. Like, use what you have. You don't have to go out and get some beautiful glass Pyrex matching set of everything right out of the gate in order to meal prep successfully. This is a misnomer. Use what you have. If you want to build up your nicer containers over time, go ahead and do that. To get the really nice ones, they're kind of pricey, so you might want to, again, like I said, build it up over time. But don't let the fact that you don't have beautiful matching Pyrex containers stop you from meal prepping. Okay, so now you have all of your stuff, you're home, you're ready to do this. Make it pleasant. Make it pleasant, make it pleasant. If this is like some grueling chore, you're not gonna wanna do it. So, have a nice playlist you wanna listen to, have some podcasts lined up you wanna listen to, bring your tablet or laptop into the kitchen and set up Netflix so that you can watch some fun shows or movies while you're doing this. Try to make it as pleasant on yourself as possible. Also, make sure you have all of your recipes that you're gonna make all together and ready to go. You don't wanna be searching on the internet for like, oh yeah, what was I gonna make? I was gonna make this recipe, but what site was that on? I gotta find it. print them out, write them down, keep them all together. I actually have a little box in my kitchen full of index cards with all of my favorite recipes on them, and I keep the ones that I really like, that we use over and over again, in that box so that I always have access to them. Make sure you have all the tools that you need, your pots, your pans, your measuring cups, your knives, things like that. Get them all out, put them in a part of the kitchen so that you're ready to go. Okay, now you're ready to actually start cooking. This is a really important piece of advice. Start with the recipe that takes the longest to cook. This is gonna shorten your time so much if you start with the longest recipe first. So it's always surprising to me how many people don't do this, but if you are cooking, let's say, dried beans from scratch and they're gonna take a couple of hours to cook, that should be the very first thing that you get going. So you can set it and forget it. Soups, chilies, anything like that, you wanna get it started early so that while that's cooking, you can do other things. So in general, I always start with the recipe that takes the longest and end with the recipe that takes the shortest. Except, while things are cooking, let's say I have vegetables roasting in the oven for 25 minutes, while that's doing that, I might be assembling the sandwiches that I'm going to have for lunch. So use that dead wait time, that passive cooking time, to do other things. Don't overwhelm yourself. Again, if you're not used to cooking a bunch of things all at once, you don't want to start everything and be super overwhelmed with things boiling over and stuff burning. So pace yourself. You will get better at this over time, but use the passive time while one thing is cooking to maybe chop vegetables or blend up sauces and dressings for the next thing so that you are using every precious minute you have. This can take your meal prep from, 7 hours, which is not practical for most people. This can take it down to like under 2 hours if you learn this skill. A couple of smaller tips: if you are doing any salads in your meal prep, do not put the dressing on them. In fact, sometimes you want to keep even like the proteins that you're going to put on your salad separate, because once you start putting things on your lettuces, they might start to wilt, and by the end of the week it might be gross. I've done this many times. So put your fresh vegetables in a container, stick a paper towel in there to also suck up the moisture. That is going to help prevent things from wilting. So in a Tupperware container, salad, paper towel, close it, and then you might put your proteins and dressings on the side of that. So on the day of making it, you just mix it all together on that day. That's going to keep it much, much fresher. Another tip is, once you have cooked everything, divide it out into your portions. So you don't have to be exact with this. A lot of times people will say, well, I made a whole pot of soup and I don't know how to portion it out now. If you made a recipe and you know that it has 8 portions in it, 8 servings in it according to the recipe, eyeball out 8 servings. It doesn't have to be exact. Lay your 8 containers out, split it up as close as you can get it. It does not need to be perfect. And along with this, if you made 8 and you only need 7, take that 8th one and stick it in the freezer for future emergencies. Use your freezer to put stuff aside for the future, because there will come a night where you are not prepared. It happens to all of us. And if you have a few meals in the freezer for that, you're gonna be in pretty good shape. Once you have everything laid out in the Tupperware containers, let the food come down to room temperature before you stick it in your fridge. If you put 7 containers of hot soup in your fridge, it's going to raise the temperature of your fridge quite a lot, probably for at least an hour or 2, and it's just not a very smart thing to do. So you wanna let it cool to close to room temperature before you put anything in the fridge. And my last tip is actually not necessarily a meal prep tip. It's that not every meal needs to be prepped. And some things lend themselves to being put together on the fly better than being meal prepped. For example, lately I have been doing cereal for breakfast. It's the Special K protein cereal, a touch of cinnamon, love that stuff, with some blueberries, some soy milk, and a couple of slices of the Eve's veggie bacon on the side. I don't need to prep that. Start to finish, that takes me maybe 6 minutes to make every day. I don't need to pre-portion my cereal. I don't need to pre-portion my blueberries. That literally takes me under 60 seconds to do. So that is an entire meal that I don't have to meal prep for. I just have to make sure I have the ingredients for it throughout the week. One of my snacks is a protein bar. Right now I'm totally digging the Nugo Slim mint chocolate protein bars, and it's great because, again, that's one more thing I don't have to prep. This goes back to keep it simple, keep it simple, keep it simple. A lot of times, one of my snacks or part of my snacks is an apple. I don't have to do anything for that. So the simpler you can keep things in the beginning, especially in the beginning, the more successful you're gonna be. And ironically, I find the longer that you do this also, the more you wanna keep it simple anyway, because it kind of yields the best results in my opinion, rather than having a different breakfast every day, a different lunch every day, a different dinner every day. Yes, that's exciting, but if it's not practical enough for you to keep doing it for a long time, it doesn't matter. So my last most important tip is adjust. Just because you're eating the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a week doesn't mean you have to do that for a lifetime. During the week, decide like, you know, I made this sandwich for lunch. I don't really like it that much. It's not exactly what I thought it was gonna be. Probably won't make this one again for a long time. What else would I like to have for lunch this week? What else would I like to have for dinner this week? So every week can look different from the week prior. So it's not like you're eating the same thing every day, all the time, forever. You're eating the same thing for a handful of days before you change it up to the next thing. On the flip side of that, you might have found a dinner that you are totally in love with, absolutely digging, and not feeling the need to change it up after a week. You can make that again the following week. It's totally up to you. And this is why everybody's meal prep process is going to look different. If you guys want to see one of mine and how I kind of go through that, let me know. I'm happy to show that to you. So I hope that you found this helpful. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment box down below, or if you'd like to join our Facebook group, Muscles by Brussels Radio, feel free to come over there and we can chat about this there as well. And if you would like to check out any of our tools that we have at VeganProteins.com, go ahead and go to VeganProteins.com, and I believe it's under coaching and the academy. You can check out all of the features that we have there. And we look forward to hearing from you, and I hope you guys have a great meal prep.